Welcome back, guys. So let's talk about everything I've watched in the last couple weeks, like usual. I've only got a couple TV shows that I'm going to talk about, but mostly movies, like usual. Starting out, I'm going to quickly mention the two TV shows I finished, which is The Cleveland Show and Fargo Season 4. Now, The Cleveland Show, everybody knows, is a spinoff of Family Guy, where the character Cleveland goes to a new state, to Virginia, and he meets his new wife and new stepkids, and him and Cleveland Brown Jr. go there, and it's basically Family Guy, but not as funny. There's some episodes that I thought were really actually pretty excellent towards the end, but overall the show really kind of suffered from being just the same as Family Guy, but less funny, if that makes sense. But there were good character moments, there were some funny moments. I did enjoy it. Only 4 seasons. It was canceled after 4 seasons. And then he returned back to Family Guy, Cleveland, and his new family. So they're there in some shape or form in Family Guy still, but it's just not their own show anymore. But despite that, I enjoyed the Cleveland Show toward the end more than the beginning. I thought it really did get better as it went along. And then Fargo Season 4, I watched recently. I love the movie Fargo. I loved Fargo Season 1. I really loved Season 2. I liked Season 3, and I liked this season. I didn't love it. Season 4 is set in Kansas City, Missouri, which is great. I'm from Missouri. And I've been to Kansas City, of course. Kansas City, Missouri in 1950s, where you've got all these different mafia groups of different kinds of people, different Italian people, black people. You've got all these fights going on, where these gang wars, and throughout all this, it's pretty solid. It's an interesting season. I like that it's set in the 50s. That makes it unique for the Fargo universe. Chris Rock is great in it. There is a nurse in this show called Orietta, who is this murderous nurse who goes and kills people by drugs, and it's really funny, by medical drugs. Like, that's genuinely awesome. She's got a great performance. I don't know who the actress's name is. You've also got Jason Schwartzman in this as well. And you've got a lot of good characters in this season. I think that the characters are good, but I don't think that this season, like the last season, like Season 3, which I liked too, I feel like they're not as good as Season 1 and 2. I think that they are really, really well done. They're just not. This one is just not as interesting as Season 1 and 2. I think it's hard to top those. But I know we're getting a Season 5 with Jennifer Jason Leigh and John Hamm set in current time, or 2019 time. That'll be great. So I can't wait for that. But Fargo Season 4 I did like overall. I just didn't love it. I thought it was not as well done, but it's still good. It's still a good show. It's a great show, one of the best ever, I think, honestly. Still, despite saying that. That's all the TV shows. Next up, I'm going to talk about Black Phone, which is the only, I think, theatrical movie I've watched since my last video on this channel. Now, Black Phone is the newest Scott Derrickson directed film, based on a story by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, and it is about a kid who gets kidnapped by a crazy man played by Ethan Hawke, with a creepy mask, and he is put in a basement, and it's basically that's the movie, like the kid's trying to get out of the basement, and it's actually really effective. Like, I did like the Black Phone. I thought it was good. Scott Derrickson's horror movies, like, I enjoy every single one that I've seen of his, from Sinister to Deliver Us from Evil. And he even did Doctor Strange, the first one. He's a great director, and I really do like his stuff. And this one is no different. It's really, really great at building the tension, and really interesting with these characters, with the kid who's trying to get out of this whole situation. And Ethan Hawke is terrifying in this. And I love Ethan Hawke's stuff. He's great in everything I've seen. He is really good in this, and I liked him a lot, and I thought it was awesome. Not much else to say without spoiling it, but Black Phone I thought was great. 4 out of 5 stars. I think I gave it on Letterboxd. I thought it was really good. Then I watched The Grudge 3, and that one was really bad. I've of course seen the first 2 American Grudge movies, and I've even seen the two of the Ju-on movies, which are the Japanese equivalent of The Grudge, where they actually started first. But I've seen the American Grudge 1 and 2 with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Amber Tamblyn. Those movies. I thought those movies were okay, and then this one was really bad. So The Grudge 3 is just the same movie as the other ones, and I'm such a hypocrite because I love slashers that are the exact same thing every single time, but these creepy ghost movies just don't really do it for me in terms of the sequels. Like, the first two Grudges were okay, but this one I thought was bad in terms of it's just so utterly boring. Like, I'm not interested in it. And I know it's hypocritical because, like I said, I love slasher movies that do the exact same thing every single time, but this just isn't my cup of tea, watching Grudge 3. It is about, it's in a high rise where, like, these people this couple are having repercussions of the woman from the last movie who was killed in that apartment, and the kid from the last movie gets killed at the beginning of this movie. And it did that in Grudge 2, where it's like they kill off the same character from the last movie, so it's just another one of those horror sequels that does that. Honestly, really not much to say about Grudge 3. I just thought it was really boring. Then I rewatched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because it finally came out on Blu-ray 4K, and I of course got the 4K edition. I still am always there for physical media. And Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I actually liked it more on rewatch, and I thought that it was good on first watch. I still enjoyed it. But it might have been because I also rewatched a lot of Sam Raimi movies in the past couple months, like Drag Me to Hell and the first Evil Dead. So maybe that might have been another reason why I was just more in awe of this again, rewatching it. But this one, of course, is where Doctor Strange is dealing with these multiverse repercussions that he is involved with this girl, America Chavez. And this is, of course, after Spider-Man No Way Home, which Doctor Strange used the multiverse as well in that movie. But it was a different type of multiverse because that was Spider-Man's multiverse. This is just a multiverse of, I guess they technically fall into the same realm, but like it's other universes. It's not just like the Spider-Man universes. It's like all these random universes that they can go to. Now, this one is really classic Sam Raimi, and I'm glad that we got to see that because it's been a while since we've had classic Sam Raimi. Drag Me to Hell was from 2009, and the last movie he might have directed, I thought, was Oz the Great and Powerful, which didn't feel like that much of a movie like his. It felt very different. And this one, I'm glad it's back to basics. I enjoyed that, and I like seeing that in the MCU because I love how the Marvel Cinematic Universe keeps changing it up with their different movies. Like that's what makes them, I think, successful, where they make them just different enough that they give the same kind of story. But still, despite that, I think that they're so enjoyable because of that. I've talked about this already, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, so there's not much else I can really say. I just liked it slightly more. I thought it was great. I liked Wanda as the villain. She's awesome. She honestly felt like she was the star of the movie in a lot of ways, but Doctor Strange was still really great. All the characters were great. All the characters were fun. Seeing gory stuff in the MCU, almost to a point where it wasn't a PG-13, was great. Very Sam Raimi. That's awesome. But yeah, Doctor Strange I thought was good. I really did like it a lot. I thought it was actually really great. I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd now because I really did dig just how fun it was. And then here we go. So these 4 movies I had never seen before. So if you've ever heard of the American Pie movies, the comedies about the kids who want to lose their virginity by prom night, the first American Pie, that's the plot of that. American Pie, the 4 movies of American Pie are about those people. And then we got these American Pie Presents, which are these spin-off movies. And there are 5 of them. And I had seen the newest American Pie called American Pie Presents Girls Rules, and it's basically just girls trying to have sex. It's just like the first movie, but it's girls instead. And it's really bad. It's really boring. The new American Pie, the newest one that came out in 2019, 2020, whatever. But there are these 4 other spin-offs about the Stifler family. So Steve Stifler from the American Pie, the four ones that matter, played by Sean William Scott. This is about his brothers, and apparently he has like 20 brothers because like there's so many Stiflers, and it's kind of insane. But these American Pie Presents movies, I watched the other four that I had not seen, minus The Girls' Rules, which was the one that came out in 2020. I watched American Pie Band Camp, American Pie Presents Naked Mile, American Pie Presents Beta House, and American Pie Presents The Book of Love. And all of these movies are pretty much the same. American Pie Band Camp is honestly the one I hate the most because it's about Matt Stifler, I think is his name, Steve Stifler's cousin, who is just, this actor is so horrible in this role. He is so unlikable and so horrible. And I know you're going, wait, hold on, Corey, hold on. Steve Stifler in the American Pie movies is unlikable and bad. And yeah, that's true, but his character had a good performance from Sean William Scott. This character, oh my god, I just can't stand this guy playing this role. It's just so, it feels so much like a caricature. Like, you know, he's pretending to be another actor, and it's just really, really annoying. In Bandcamp, that one just drove me crazy, and a lot of people say like that might be the best one or one of the better ones out of the 4 or 5, I guess, out of the 5 spin-off movies. But man, I hated Bandcamp the most because of that Matt Stifler character. He was just so fucking annoying, and I couldn't stand him. And then The Naked Mile, which is really not about the Naked Mile. That movie I thought was not good either, but I liked it more than Bandcamp because I thought the main character was a little more likable, the Stifler character, because it was not a douchebag Stifler copy, like Sean William Scott's character from the other ones. But The Naked Mile, really, there wasn't much nudity in it. There was a couple shots of nudity, but I think that's because it was unrated, and if not, it would have not shown that much nudity. So that's really weird that it's called The Naked Mile, but it didn't really fulfill its promise. And then American Pie Presents Beta House, the third one I watched, I liked the most. I liked this one because I thought that, again, the main character was the most likable. Like, it was just about this guy trying to have sex with somebody, but they keep falling out of each other, and I think that it was just interesting. And it was, none of these movies are great, but I like that one, like, in terms of those characters. I felt like it wasn't as annoying with the humor, too, because a lot of these movies are just extremely dumb with the humor, and I know it's the point of them, but I just didn't like the other ones. Then American Pie Book of Love was the fourth one, where you've got these characters finding the book of, I forgot what the name is, but it's the book that Eugene Levy's character starts in whenever he's in high school. It's like the sex book, the Book of Love. But they find this, and they go find a lot of other people to find sex tips to put in this book, and it's not good either. I didn't hate it as much as Bandcamp in terms of the characters, but I thought it was still bad. So really, none of these reached farther than 2.5 stars for me. I think Bandcamp I gave 1 star. Naked Mile I think I gave 2 stars out of 5. Beta House I think I gave 2.5 because, like I said, I like the characters slightly more. The Book of Love I think I gave 2 stars. Like I said, none of these are good for me. But yeah, American Pie, those pretty much just mostly suck. The spin-offs, and I expected that, but I'm a completionist. I just wanted to see these to say I've seen them. And then I watched for the first time Santa's Sleigh, which is a slasher movie from the 2000s. I think it's 2005, which I was surprised. I really dug Santa's Sleigh. This one was so funny. It was such a good throwback to those 80s slashers. There are some hilarious scenes here. There's a scene where these kids are opening their presents, and it's like a thing that blows up, and these kids' heads like fly off, and it's just really hilarious because it's just so genuinely, unapologetically just over the top. And I thought that those worked in the movie. And the guy who plays the Killer Santa is really funny. He reminds me of a wrestler. And I think he probably could have been, is probably a wrestler. I don't know. I don't follow wrestling, but he looks like he'd be a wrestler. You'll see it. You know exactly what I mean if you've seen Santa's Sleigh. It just looks like that. Really dug Santa's Sleigh. It was really fun. Then I rewatched Misery, which is, of course, the 1990 Rob Reiner movie based on Stephen King's book about James Caan, who he passed away recently. R.I.P., but I loved his performance in this. James Caan is a writer who gets taken in by an obsessed fan, played by Kathy Bates, and it is one of the best, like, slow burn thrillers ever. Like, I love Misery, and I've seen it so many times. Genuinely, some of the best performances ever from Kathy Bates and James Caan, and I just genuinely love every minute of this movie. It is so fantastic, and it's probably my favorite Rob Reiner movie if I had to pick one that I remember seeing. Um, really, really great. I can't really say much else about Misery. Everybody's talked about that to death, but Misery is fantastic. Love Misery. Like I said, I've seen it before. Then this is the other movie, I guess, that is a new release, but it wasn't theatrical. But I watched Prey on HBO, or not HBO Max, on Hulu. So Prey is the prequel, or another prequel to the Predator films, if you count the Alien versus Predator movies. And it is set in the 1700s, 1780, what I'm thinking of. And this Comanche tribe is just trying to survive. And then this predator comes around, and this girl is trying to kill the predator. And this movie is so unapologetically simple, and I really love that about Prey. It is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who directed one of my favorite movies of 2016, which was 10 Cloverfield Lane. Fantastic movie. I love that movie, so I was instantly excited to see this movie. And if it wasn't him directing, I would have been like, whatever, because we've had other directors that have done these Predator movies, which are fine, like, say, Shane Black with the Predator that came out, the last one, which I like Shane Black's movies a lot, but that movie I thought was just whatever. But I'm glad that Dan Trachtenberg, like, I love this movie. It was so fantastically done with the direction, and with how, like I said, how unapologetically simple it is with just trying to survive. And I like that it goes back to the first movie in a way, because it feels more like that than the sequels. And the sequels I haven't watched in a long time. I don't remember them that well, but I remember some of them I liked okay. But man, I really, really dug this one. I thought it was great. The CG's a little spotty, but despite that, I don't care. I had a fun time with Prey. It was really awesome. Then I rewatched Grease 1 and 2 per Olivia Newton-John's passing, and I was like, I'm going to watch Grease 1, and then of course I had to watch Grease 2. But Grease 1 I've obviously wanted to watch because of her passing, and I was like, man, I really want to see, because I haven't seen Grease in a long time. I need to see this again to see just specifically her performance. And I always forget how great Grease is, the first movie. It's just a really fun, silly time. Like, it's just a good musical, and it's really fun and interesting, and I do like these characters a lot. And I like the songs a lot. I hear them all the time where I work at, too, like just on this radio station that they put on. And I always think they're so catchy and so fun and so good. It's a great movie, the first Grease. I really, really enjoy it. And Grease 2, I unapologetically really do like Grease 2, despite it being way more boring than the first one. Grease 2, of course, has Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Caulfield, or Maxwell Caulfield, I think is his name. And it is basically the first movie again, but a couple years later, and it's not as interesting in terms of overall. Like, the songs are not all the songs are as great. There are a couple songs in Grease 2 that I think are fun and awesome, like Reproduction and We're Gonna Score Tonight. Those two songs really, really love. And the song Cool Rider, I think, kind of grew on me this watch, because I've of course seen this movie before, Grease 2. But the movie suffers from being pretty not as interesting, and the musical numbers, like I said, there are a couple that I like, but some of them, the other ones, I'm like, these are not that interesting and not that fun. The first Grease had this energetic feel to it. Like, watching it, it was more energizing than this one. This one felt more boring in a lot of parts, but it still had some great things. It's great to see Michelle Pfeiffer in her first role. Great to see that this put her onto stardom, but it did not for Maxwell Caulfield. He kind of just fell off the wagon, because this movie tanked, had negative reception to it. They never made another Grease sequel because of this, unfortunately, but I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I had really fun with it, despite having some boring moments in it. It's too long for, like, for being how slow it is, in my opinion, this Grease 2. And then I rewatched, because I just really watched this one time, and I was like, I better watch this again just to see if I really understand, if I feel the same way. And that is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, starring Simu Liu, I think is how you say his name. He's really good in it. I think that this movie still kind of suffers from being not very interesting, to be honest. Shang-Chi. I like the action sequences. I thought, like, I've only seen this movie twice, counting this watch. So first time I saw it in the theaters, I thought that the first 2/3 were really interesting, and then the third act was kind of whatever. But now rewatching this again, I think the third act I like more, and then the first two acts I think are kind of boring. And it's weird. That never happens to me with these Marvel movies. Like, I didn't think that I would change my opinion that much in terms of flipping the acts around. Like I said, the first two acts that were way more interesting the first time I watched it. But now the third act I think is way more fun. And I'm surprised it did that. I'm surprised it changed that way for me. So I did like that. But it's one of those instances where it's a movie that that is trying to be unique in terms of having an Asian lead, having an Asian action movie, but it just doesn't really keep me invested, because I feel like the Marvel stuff do a thing where they like, we're going to have a character who is a different ethnicity than American, but we're not going to make them extremely interesting. We're just going to make the big pull that it's somebody that's outside of being an American. Like Miss Marvel, for example, which was a Pakistani superhero. And I liked that girl in that show. I thought she was great, but I thought the rest of the show was kind of boring, because it was just like, it's like they start at base level of, we're going to have individuality in this show with different ethnicities, but we're not going to do a lot with them. And I felt like it was like that with this one, unfortunately. Like, it's not bad, it's not great, but it's totally solid. It's got some good action in it, but I really don't remember that much about it after rewatching it just a day or two ago. It's fine. I know I got to watch it for the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what's going to happen in the universe, but it's okay. It's definitely not my favorite out of all the Marvel movies. It's pretty low. Then I got two more movies. I watched for the first time, get ready for this, it's a movie starring Eddie Murphy called Norbit, which is from 2008, 2009, 2010, somewhere around there, or maybe 2007, where Eddie Murphy is this dorky, skinny guy who marries this really horrible, mean person, Rasputia, also played by Eddie Murphy, and she is this 300, 400-pound lady who's sassy and mean and treats him like dirt and knocks him down to the ground all the time. And this one, I honestly thought this was a guilty pleasure. I thought this one was really fun, Norbit. It's so incredibly stupid. It's so bad. But Eddie Murphy's stuff can just make me laugh. Like, I love the lines, even though they say them like 1,000 times. Rasputia going, "How you doing?" Like, she'll just say that like randomly throughout the movie, and every time I just think it's funny, even though it's so dumb. It's the same joke over and over again, but it was so funny. I thought that there are scenes. This movie is basically just, the joke is she's fat, so we're gonna do fat jokes about her. And I unashamedly laughed at a lot of those. There is a scene, my favorite scene in the movie, where Eddie Murphy's watching Thaddeus Newton's character, who's the cute, beautiful girl who he wants to be with, because he grew up with her as an orphan. And then they parted ways and they met each other recently in the movie. So Eddie Murphy's character is watching Thaddeus Newton going down the slide, and then Rasputia comes up and says, "Oh, you want to see a bitch slide? You're gonna see a bitch slide." And then she goes up there, and the lady's like, "Ma'am, we have a 300-pound limit." And then Rasputia, who's obviously over 300 pounds, says, "I ain't no 300 pounds. I'm 165 pounds. What you talking about? How are you doing?" And then she goes down the water slide, but she flies through a wall. And there is a hilarious shot of this of this little kiddie pool, and there's this little girl, and she just screams, and Rasputia flies down, and there's like a tsunami, and literally it just shows a shot of them both sitting in the pool, and there's no water. Like, those jokes get me. They're so stupid, but man, I laughed. I don't care. I'm not apologizing. I thought it was so hilarious. It was so dumb. Of course it's dumb, but it's hilarious. I thought it was fun. Norbit I had a good time with. There's a lot of funny lines. There's even a funny line from Christian Shaw, who's in this movie for like one scene, and these two pimps come up and are talking to these two ladies, and she says to one lady, "You're my hoe now," and the lady's like, "Okay," and then Christian Shaw says, "I want to be a hoe. How do I sign up?" Like those. That's a great line, and Christian Shaw is always funny. But yeah, Norbit I had a fun time with, despite it being, of course, it's overly stupid. It's obviously not going to be an Oscar-winning movie. It's just a dumb movie, and I had fun with it. And then the last movie I'm going to talk about, and I don't know really what to say about this, is The Howling 3, The Marsupials. And I just watched this movie right before I started recording this, and I shit you not, I already forgot what happened. This is a Howling sequel, and it is horrendous. It is genuinely horrible. And the first Howling I thought was fine. I liked the first Howling okay. Howling 2 was really bad, but it was fun and entertaining because it was so just unapologetically stupid. And I thought that was fun with Howling 2, despite it being a horrible movie. But Howling 3 is a horrible, boring movie. So you see my dilemma here. Like, Howling 2 is at least fun. This one is, for me, this one is at least just so boring and so uninteresting and so bad because it's just so boring. There's nothing that I could say about this movie that I thought was anything entertaining. I could barely even like say the plot to you. This movie is about werewolves. It has these people studying werewolves, and then there's some that are still here from these time periods where you see that they were killed, or other werewolves were killed, but they keep getting passed down. And then really that's all. I really honestly just don't even know what to say about this movie. It's just so incredibly forgettable. I don't know what to even say about it. There are just, well, it's forgettable in the fact that this movie has no flow to it. There's random stuff that happens, and I don't get what the hell even happened. Like, what is going on? They'll cut from talking about making movies to scenes of somebody turning into a werewolf. And, like, this brings back the movie thing, like the first movie where they, or not movies, they bring back, like, using media with these werewolves. Like, for example, the first movie, you see at the beginning of the movie, Dee Wallace goes in that porn shop, and then that's when all the stuff happens. But in this one, it's about them making movies, and there's an actress that is a werewolf in the movie, within the movie. If that makes sense. It's confusing, but then I remember at the end, they're out in the woods together, like these characters, and then a lot of them get killed, and then this movie just does random stuff where, like, you don't understand where the flow of this comes from. The score is really good, though. I'm genuinely surprised, but I don't care. I don't give a shit. This movie was so bad, Howling 3. But saying that, it's weird to say, but if I find it cheap, I still want to get the Scream Factory release of Howling 3 just to watch the special features, just to really see what is on people's minds with this movie, who made this movie, because it's just so weird. Genuinely don't understand it. It's so what the fuck movie. Like, I don't get it. But anyways, that's all I've watched these past couple weeks. I'm excited because Bodies comes out this week, or it already just came out, which I want to see. And then that movie Fall, I want to see. Looks great. I've got a whole stack of movies I want to watch that I've never seen before, so we've got more, mostly horror, but I've got a couple Eddie Murphy ones I want to watch too. I see Beverly Hills Cop 2. I bought that one recently for $1, so I want to see that one, but I've got a lot of horror and a lot of other random stuff that I want to see. But, like I said, I'll be back next week, or next 2 weeks, whenever I decide to make it again, since I've been busy with work. But that's it for today, and I'll see you guys later.